Hello everyone. Welcome to the day 9 of Core Java. So today we will be studying the last pillar of OOPS in Java, that is abstraction. So what is abstraction? As the name suggests, abstraction means hiding something. So it is a fundamental concept in OOPS that focuses on exposing only the essential features of an object while hiding the complex implementation details. So what it helps in? So it allows developers to define interfaces and abstract classes that are the main things that we create in abstraction that provide a blueprint for creating objects without exposing the inner workings. So abstraction mainly focuses on what an object does instead of how it does it. As the name suggests, it hides the inner implementation, that is the complex implementation details. So how do we achieve abstraction? We achieve abstraction mainly by using two things provided to us in Java, that is abstract classes and interfaces. So, what are the benefits of doing abstraction? So, abstraction helps in simplifying complex systems by exposing only necessary components. It also helps in code reusability, and it somewhat also helps in encapsulation. Somewhat, yeah, somewhat not mainly. It helps in encapsulation, but we studied encapsulation. So, there is a difference between encapsulation and abstraction. So first, we will be learning about what are abstract classes. So what are abstract classes? Abstract classes are those classes that cannot be instantiated. Instantiated means we cannot create an object of our abstract class. So what can it contains? It contains both abstract methods without body and concrete methods with body. So when earlier abstract classes came, so it was the concept that we can only create abstract methods in it. But we came, as we came with earlier version, with later versions, we could also create concrete methods in our abstract classes. So now let's see a practical example of abstract classes. So what we are going to learn about? We are going to learn about abstract classes. So let's create. So for creating an abstract class, we use the abstract keyword. Then let's create abstract class shape. And here I'm going to create an abstract method draw. So I'm not going to provide the implementation. I'm just declaring a method, which is an abstract method draw. So now let's also create a concrete method here and see whether it is giving me an error or not. So it is not giving me an error. So I can create a concrete method also in my abstract class. So now let's move forward. So now let's create a class circle, which is going to extend my abstract class shape. So let's see here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to override. So now see, there is a thing to note here. So now it is giving me an error. Circle is not abstract and does not override abstract method draw in shape. So we saw in earlier versions when we were extending a class, we were not getting such type of error. But why we are getting this error in this point? So we are getting this error because whenever a class extends an abstract class, so that class is required to implement or override the abstract methods of the class it is extending. So this is a rule. So now what we are going to do? We are going to implement the abstract method of our shape class. So now the error has gone. So now we are going to just given implementation drawing a circle. So now I have given implementation drawing a circle. So now let's also add an override annotation here as we have overridden this method. So now I have given a override annotation here. So this is what we did. We created an abstract class and we created an abstract method draw, and then we created a class circle, which is extending our shape class, and then we have overridden the draw method in our circle class. So this is the use of abstraction. We created an abstract method and then we are giving its own implementation. The implementation we want to give in our implementing class. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, so let's create a reference variable of my parent class and create the object of my child class. So now let's call the method draw. So I'm going to call my method draw and let's see the output. So now we have given the implementation of our draw method in our child class. So we got the output as drawing a circle as we gave the implementation in our child class. So this is how we do our abstraction. This is how we use our abstract classes. So let's move forward. So next are our interfaces. So what are interfaces? This is a contract that defines methods without implementation. So classes that implement an interface must provide the method implementations as we saw in our abstract classes. When we were extending our abstract class, we had to provide the implementation of its abstract method as it was giving us an error. So the same we do in interfaces. So as you can remember when we studied inheritance, so we saw a node there. What node was it? We saw that we can implement multiple inheritance in Java, but not through classes. So this is where interfaces work. So we can implement multiple inheritance in Java using interfaces. So this is our second use of our interfaces. So now let's implement interface. So now first let's remove all this abstract class one. So now what we will be doing, we will be creating a first interface. So how do we create an interface? We use a interface keyword to create an interface. So now let's create an abstract method here. So I am going to create an abstract method here. So the method is void sound, and I am just going to, let's again create a dog. So we use the implements keyword to implement an interface. So now I'm going to just implement my sound method as it is also giving me error till the time I'm not implementing the method. So now I'm going to implement the sound method. I'm just going to print here box. Now I'm just going to call my method. Let's create a dog, an object. So I have named my object as dog, and now I'm going to call the sound function. And now let's run our program. So now you could see that we got the output as barks here. So this is the next thing, that is interface. So interface is used to implement. So what does multiple inheritance means? So how can we implement multiple inheritance using interfaces? So we studied about hierarchical inheritance and multi-level inheritance. So we studied about all those things in our inheritance video. So, and we left the multiple inheritance. So, what is multiple inheritance? And why do Java avoid multiple inheritance with classes? So because of the diamond problem. So the primary issue with multiple inheritance is the diamond problem, where a class inherits from two classes that have a common ancestor, leading to ambiguity about which superclass methods or properties should be inherited. So for avoiding that problem, so the Java does not support multiple inheritance to classes because of this problem. So it allows a class to implement multiple interfaces, thus solving the diamond problem and achieving multiple inheritance in Java. So now let's see an example of multiple inheritance in Java. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create two interfaces. So I'm creating my first interface, that is flyable, and I'm just going to create a method here, that is fly, and I'm going to create a second interface also here, and the name of the interface is swimmable. I am giving it a creating a function here which is swim. So now I will be creating my class. So I have created a class. I have created a class duck which is going to implement. So my duck flies also, and my duck swims also. So I want both classes, both interfaces, my flyable and swimmable. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use the implements keyword, and then I am just going to implement my first interface, that is flyable, and then my second interface, that is swimmable. So I'm going to implement two of my methods. And now it is also giving me error. What error it will give me? Because I have not still override the abstract method from flyable and swimmable. So now let's go to, so let's first add the override notation as I'm going to override. So let's give it, so let's override it by using the public modifiers that I can access it in my practice data class. So now here I've created the fly function and I'm just going to print duck can fly. Okay, now I'm going to override the second function. So let's provide the orientation here. And I'm going to override the swim function from swimmable interface. So I'm just going to print here duck can swim. So I created two. So I overrided two functions here. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to create an object of my duck class. So let's create a D object of my duck class, and now I'm going to just call two of my functions. That is, one is fly and other is swim. So I'm just going to call it. So now let's run our program. So here we can see we got the output as fly and swim. So this is an example of how can we achieve multiple inheritance through interfaces. So we created two interfaces, flyable and swimmable, and then we defined the methods fly and swim respectively. And then we implemented the multiple interfaces in our duck class, as the class implements both interfaces by providing concrete implementations for fly and swim methods. So using the main class, we created the instance of duck class, and then we call both methods, demonstrating that duck inherits behavior from multiple sources. So this is how can we implement multiple inheritance using interfaces. So now there is something different about versions of interfaces. So before Java 8, that is before Java 8 version, no method implementation was allowed in interfaces. That is, interfaces could only declare methods. So however, starting with Java 8, interfaces can have default methods, that is methods with a body, which adds some complexity but still avoids the issue of multiple inheritance. So these are some of the key points about multiple inheritance in Java. So this we have studied about now interfaces and abstract classes. So interfaces had, after Java 8, interfaces had our default and static methods, and prior to Java 8, where we could not give any concrete implementation of methods and interfaces. After Java 9, we could also had private methods in interfaces. So we will also be learning about it in detail. So how can we implement static default methods in interfaces? We will be having a different video for interfaces. We will be learning interfaces in more detail. So thank you everyone for watching.